the difference between information and knowledge, right? The best source of knowledge, which actually assumes, so information transforms into knowledge, and the best place information transforms into knowledge is at the workplace. So BHyve is very bees itself for the entire planet are the humans are not the most important people on or species on the planet, but bees are, right? Because if humans do go extinct, the world will still continue to operate, planet will still continue to operate. But if bees tomorrow go extinct, then humankind, every species on our planet will cease to exist.
Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of Pitch Cafe podcast. This is a place where talent meets coffee, and today we have with us a super duper talented next-gen entrepreneur, and he's out there to disrupt workplace. Hey, this entrepreneur is completely exciting and fascinating to me because everything he does is out of the box. The way he came up with the why of his current startup, his expeditions in Russia, his work with MIT Media Lab, and guess what? He was a prof at a business school. And if you think this was not fun enough, he has many more explorations to talk about. Let's welcome on board without further ado, Omkar Pandharkame, one of the most talked about people on LinkedIn today. His post just got 2.5 million views. It went viral. He's a person who has created waves from Aurangabad to Silicon Valley, and we are here in Falcon X B2B Accelerator. So Omkar, let's bring you on. Welcome to Pitch Cafe podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm very delighted here, able to share my story about how a small little idea is now on its route to becoming something big. So happy to share my experiences.
So Omkar, tell us one key vision of your startup BHyve, which brings you to Silicon Valley at Falcon X B2B Accelerators immersion program. You're funded by 100x VC. Tell us, what is that one title? You say it's meant for social. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
So, when you come to Silicon Valley, you don't come with conservative dreams, right? You always come with an idea which can really make a dent in the world. Our vision is that we want to create unified intelligence for the next 1 billion people. What we believe is that can we make one single brain which can store and share knowledge of 1 billion people, and can we make it accessible to each other? Wow. And typically, I think 2022, having decentralized systems is very important and imperative as we build the future together. And I think the currency of the future is knowledge, and that's where we want to organize it first and then decentralize it. So that's our vision.
I like that. You're talking about 1 billion brains, but you start with a workplace. Why did you pick the workplace? Why didn't you pick a place like a social media platform? You could have picked anything. Why did you pick workplace?
Yeah, so I was actually hearing a podcast today morning about the difference between information and knowledge, right? The best source of knowledge, which actually assumes, so information transforms into knowledge, and the best place information transforms into knowledge is at the workplace. So let's say both of us are working at an organization. Our water cooler conversation about how are you able to optimize a particular thing or upsell a particular deal, all this wisdom or knowledge never really gets shared, and it has prime importance at the workplace. So when we are talking about tribal knowledge, the best place to capture it is at the workplace, and the best place which will benefit it the most is the workplace, right? So that's our attempt about how can we make tribal knowledge within the organization more accessible in a fun, gamified way. Of course, gradually we want to take it social about tribal knowledge sharing platform, but our first 100-story building, out of which 10 stories is about the workplace.
Fantastic. So you graduated from a university in Russia. Why did you pick Russia, and what was the course you studied, and why did you make that move? You had a flourishing career in Mumbai, and you were in the hub and the heart of the startup world in Mumbai. And I would say a lot more states in India, you worked with the founders there. Why did you make this move?
Yeah, so actually I went to do my PhD actually in Europe, and one of the locations over there was Russia to start it off. I've always been fascinated by the Russian culture of innovation, not very aggressively spoken about, or let's not
Yes.
talk about Russia, but entirely East Europe per se.
Yes.
The top tier talent currently in the world, I would definitely say considerable people come from East Europe, right?
Yes.
You include
And,
Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, Poland,
Yeah.
Lithuania, Estonia. So
Yeah, and I have worked with some people myself. They're
Yeah.
very cost effective,
yeah,
and I did multiple ventures with them.
Yeah.
They work a lot with thought frameworks which are changing the world,
yeah,
and they are the first AI enabled government.
Yeah,
AI
Estonia
enabled-
one, yeah.
Estonia, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, their thinking is so different.
yeah.
So yeah, tell me what it was like studying in Russia.
Yeah. So studying in Russia was very opening because I have always been exposed to the Western world, even during my stint in as a professor in the business school in Mumbai. Most of the interactions was with the West world, right? Over there, we interacted quite a bit, as you mentioned, with MIT Media Labs or with a bunch of other top tier universities over here. But as gradually I started realizing that in order to develop a very holistic view, it is also
Yeah.
important to see eastwards, right?
Yeah.
And the biggest city, especially in Europe, right, is actually Moscow. So I decided to go to Moscow to study organizational psychology from. So how USA has Stanford, Russia has Higher School of Economics, and I was happy that I got admitted into it. So it's called the Russia Stanford. I was happy to be a part of it. I studied organizational psychology and got my master's over there and was going to progress on to do my PhD. And the objective was to understand that how organizational culture or workplace culture can be a very important predicament or a very important predictor of knowledge sharing within the organization. That's essentially the thesis what I even eventually wrote. And I had really good supervisors over there. And Moscow is a very powerful city in all aspects, in terms of intellectual capital, in terms of access to resources, in terms of as an immigrant who has come over there, the Indian embassies where I engaged quite frequently with. The social capital what you built in Moscow was of such high intellectual value that it actually, I could see myself evolve with every interactions with really intelligent people from that part of the world.
Yeah, and I think you've engaged with the government in India as well, right?
Yeah.
You worked with those massive government projects,
Yes.
not only in the entrepreneurial landscape but also for the Kumbhathon. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about your engagement with the government and how it enabled you to work on your startup idea.
So I had a couple of engagements with Niti Aayog as well during my tenure as a professor and also afterwards. I think India is at that inflection point that if we get it right now, we will be able to literally. I was just reading this quote from McKinsey's founder, who ended up saying that it's not India's decade, but it's India's century. I truly believe that. So I was able to work with Niti Aayog, Atal Innovation Mission specifically, in launching tinkering labs at schools, right? So I was engaged with a school in Gujarat, a western state in India, and using whatever methodologies I used at a university level to develop entrepreneurial thinking for students who are at universities, the same kind of condensed it to schools and helping students to tinker around with ideas. The idea was tinkering labs itself of Atal Innovation Mission. So I was happy to play a small part in helping students start thinking as an entrepreneur at a young age, right?
Very nice.
So,
So I can see I have a daughter who is in fourth grade, and I know how important it is to encourage them to tinker, because most education systems I have seen, there you're punished for failing, but Tinker Lab is a place where you are encouraged to try and fail. And when you come out and you do startups, failure is the first thing which is real to you. So this is amazing. So you've done a couple of startups. I saw that. So you've engaged with governments. You pursued a PhD program in Russia, and other than that, you've done a couple of startups on your own
Correct.
before you got funded.
Yeah.
So tell us about those startups.
Yeah, so my first startup was with my best friend, and it's right now doing fantastically well. It was a concept called Desi Hangover. Desi Hangover was a footwear company which asked a very important question, that why modern Indians are still spending thousands of rupees or more than $100 per year in buying brands which are not even made in India or does not even has the ethos of India.
Yeah.
So we looked at a very humble Kolhapuri chappal which goes back about what, 1,000 years, 1,200 years, which was a lost art. We kind of engaged with the cobblers. We realized that this particular footwear will have a very big global demand. We redesigned that chappal, a slipper, into a shoe, started selling it in India, Portugal, Egypt, Singapore, US.
Very nice.
And I now know that last year we sold approximately 500,000 shoes.
Wow.
So
amazing.
And it's a very interesting enterprise as well.
Yeah.
I'm no longer a part of it, but I still engage as an advisor. Is that every shoe you buy of Desi Hangover, a student's education in the local village where the shoes are made gets supported for 1 year.
Very
So you
nice.
spend $50 or $100 in buying a footwear for yourself. You support education of a kid in India. So that's the kind of enterprise what we built.
So is it a non-profit or it's
No.
It's a for-profit?
It's a for-profit.
Wow, how
I
do you
think.
run that? You should tell me sometime.
Yeah, no, it's simple, right? If you know your unit economics well, you can actually make an impact to the society. I really believe that, right?
Okay.
One very other thing what I like to mention over here is even at BHyve, we're inculcating a practice that no matter that, we are early stage, we're hyper growth stage currently, but it's never too early to start dedicating some amount of your money towards CSR, right?
I
And
love
that's something you don't have to start thinking about CSR the moment you cross, say, $10 million or $50 million in ARR, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we do.
So Omkar, tell me, let's get a little bit in depth into your startup, BHyve. The name BHyve, to me, it's not uncommon, but you have a very creative take on that.
Yeah.
Tell us why you picked the word BHyve.
Yeah.
Knowing you're an organizational psychologist, I
Yeah.
can imagine. But what is BHyve and what does your product look like?
No, so BHyve is very bees itself for the entire planet humans are not the most important people or the species on the planet, but bees are, right? Because if humans do go extinct, the world will still continue to operate, planet will still continue to operate. But if bees tomorrow go extinct, then humankind, every species on our planet will cease to exist. One of the most interesting part about bees is the way they collaborate, right? Bees, as kids, we've always been listening to these comparisons that as busy as a bee or as hardworking as a bee.
Right.
And the reason why the beehive is able to be built, or a honeycomb is being able to be built, is because of collective efforts and collaborative efforts, right?
Yeah.
So whenever we pitch BHyve to our customers, one of the lines which I always make sure it's included in our sales deck is that we will transform your organization into a beehive, which literally means that we will transform your organization into a productivity powerhouse. Because the speed at which a beehive is built, the collaboration what happens between bees, the kind of symmetry in every hexagon what a beehive has, right?
Yeah.
That talks about how efficiently and productively and collaboratively bees are able to work.
So this is like art imitates life. This is like tech imitates biology.
Yeah.
So there's a science where we are learning from the insects and the animals.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm blanking out, but I think that's what you're doing here.
Yeah. In fact, there's a concept in AI as well, right? Called swarm intelligence.
Swarm intelligence, actually brain swarming and
Yeah.
swarm intelligence. So,
Yeah.
so tell us what is the secret of the powerhouse you're creating at BHyve? Yeah,
so I think the currency is knowledge, right? There's a simple thing, right? Each and every employee is a combination of different skills, competencies, and knowledge areas.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the knowledge what he or she knows is not explicitly out there, right?
Yeah.
It's hidden in emails. It's hidden on water cooler conversations. It is hidden in Slack conversations.
Yeah.
But the moment you are able to make it more visible that
Yeah.
Omkar is able to upsell to a particular client, or say Vidya is able to go ahead and optimize a particular supply chain, the moment this knowledge becomes visible, it can also start getting accessible to everybody.
Yeah.
One of the most important things what we use at BHyve is gamification. So every time an employee shares their best practices with their colleagues, they start getting rewarded for it.
Wow.
So this is a kind of a great encouragement, incentive that employees are constantly sharing their knowledge, which otherwise it's either siloed, it's locked or scattered.
Or it's in rat race.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you have more knowledge right now, the way it works is, you have more likelihood of making advancement in your career.
Yes.
But you're flipping the model. You're saying if you share your secrets of success. I think this is anyway an open economy.
Yeah, I think that's a dead thing, that people hoarding knowledge.
Yeah.
I think it's very much like a 2000 thing. One of the papers which I actually wrote was how to reduce knowledge hoarding at the workplace, right? A very outdated concept that people feel, insecure when they share their knowledge. That what if this person actually takes my knowledge and performs better than me? That's pretty much like a passe. In fact, one of the best ways to reduce this knowledge hoarding behavior and making sure people share their knowledge is public recognition. What exactly BHyve does. So if I am publicly recognized as an expert in negotiation or in troubleshooting or say identifying bugs, right? Whatever my field is, if I'm publicly recognized, then it kind of creates an external obligation for me to start sharing it, because now people are looking up to me that, hey, he's an expert. So if you're an expert, it's your moral duty to start sharing what you know.
Fantastic. So I really like the idea. I also like the idea that you're looking at nature and getting inspired. So nature's principles are existential. They're more long lasting than a capitalistic or a socialistic or any one kind of idea. So this is great. Now let's talk about some of your clients whom you can openly share. You've been funded by 100x VC and a couple of others. So what are your customers like, and what do they have to say about your product after they use it?
Yeah, so building an enterprise product in 2022 is very challenging.
Why do you say that?
Okay, here's the thing, right? Because the moment you enter with a platform, there are a lot of pre-existing platforms which don't really do what you do, but then it is a question of overburdening the users with a lot of platforms and tools, right? So you have to really make and it's the attention currency, right?
Exactly.
That you have to make sure that your particular product stands out as compared to all the other tools or platforms what the employees would use. So that's why it's challenging in 2022 to actually sell platform tool products. It's not so much for platform. We sell as a platform, but still it's challenging. Our first client was the world's largest aluminium company.
Wow.
And a very peculiar use case. Two things. What was happening was, over a period of time, people have spent a lot of time engineering, right? 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. And when they retire with a lot of knowledge with them. And when they retire, there's a concept called knowledge void. A big void gets created within the organization where a seasoned person leaves, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And then when that happens, you have his successors scratching their head that, hey, how do we solve this? How did that previous person did that? Right? So we were able to go ahead and effectively prove this organization to make sure all the best practices of these veterans is forged. And the second thing is that there is a lot of knowledge mismatch which happens at different locations. If I'm running a company which has, say, 50 plants, for example, the best practices of one plant never get shared with another plant, right? Unless there's a quarterly meet. But innovation is happening at a plant at an everyday basis, right?
Absolutely.
People are discovering new ways to do a particular task. Can we pick that up and can we make it accessible to everybody in real time?
Yeah, I worked in this capital equipment medical device startup. The equipments were $5 million and $10 million dollars. It was in radiation therapy, and they had a plant where they manufactured specific parts. Some of these cyclotrons arrived from Germany. And I know exactly what you mean. When the people have worked on one machine their entire life.
Exactly.
And when they leave,
my God.
Yeah,
it's a dumb place, right?
The product managers, the entire line of product managers, the process experts, the regulatory, the FDA guys, oh my God. So this is true for large corporations. What has been your experience with slightly smaller, if you've had clients?
My largest client is 6,000, 7,000 odd employees. My smallest client is 70 employees.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So that's the range. Although my investors don't like listening to this, my investors always are like, Omkar, select a particular domain and go into it. But I still believe that if you've built a platform, then a platform can be sold to everybody.
Yeah,
of course, there's a sequence towards selling it.
Yeah.
But we learned that, right?
Google is platform, domain agnostic. Anybody can use Google.
Yeah, exactly. So we also are going into that route, but we are going into the more sequential manner, right?
Yeah.
So for a smaller organization, I can give you an example. It's a wealth management company based out of Mumbai, or even a ship designing company based out of Mumbai, right? Knowledge is very critical for these people, right? Because the impact of when a person from a smaller organization leaves is much more than an impact from a larger organization when they leave. Right. So it is more critical for smaller organization. And the second thing is, what happens is when companies grow at a super fast rate, processes are put on the back burner. Right. And this is where BHyve actually comes and helps these organizations to set up knowledge processes, so that just in case they are derailed a little bit, knowledge can come to their rescue. So even for small companies, it works very, very well.
So you're mummifying the persona of the person who's left.
Yes.
There's a mummy preserved. And you keep it or you grow it.
We have a tagline, right? Even if your employee leaves the organization, we make sure their knowledge doesn't. Right.
Very nice. Amazing.
And in fact, there was a big conversation around the Great Resignation, which is still going on, I think. And during Great Resignation, people were switching jobs left, right, center, or actually leaving jobs, right? So we also had a statement that even if an employee leaves your organization, you make sure that their knowledge doesn't leave their organization.
And you said the future of workplace is social.
Yeah.
What did that social in your tagline?
Oh, yeah. So the social, what I mean is that workplaces, I believe, are going to be remote, at best hybrid. And when workplaces are remote, it is very easy to feel left out. Right. I am just conversing through my laptop, right, with a bunch of colleagues whom I may or may not have met. But the moment we try making work social, right, that whole physical difference between people is diminished, right? The reason why we also say future of work is social is that meaningful relationships at the workplace can actually increase productivity and elongate the employee life cycle within the organization. So the more social we like to keep our workplaces, I think the higher chances of productivity and larger employee life cycle.
Yeah, so I can vouch for that. I've been out of the workforce since 2015. I don't report to one employer. I have multiple employers. And I work with multiple gig workers, and some of them have stayed with me throughout. Even though we haven't worked, it's just through the gigs, the trust we, and our calls are mostly social. Social as in we are friendly, and then work happens.
Correct.
So I think that's a great way to pitch the product. So we can keep talking, Omkar. I'm very excited about your product, especially this. Social, I think it's the future, and also you're anchoring on knowledge, and the BHyve is extremely powerful. So what is, I know you said your investor says you keep focus in one domain. What else do your investors have to say? You're right now in seed or series
seed, pre-series A, that's where we are.
And what are the expectations for your pre-series A investors? What is it like?
No, I think we are in a very good position right now because considering the given market condition, right? Everybody tells that it's a funding winter. I would say that more so in late stage. But I think it is more narrative what is getting built rather than the actual on ground reality for early stage startups, right? So again, we have paying customers, we have a product market fit,
Awesome.
we have a definitive roadmap to get to a couple of millions in ARR in the next year. So everything is pretty much set. I think we come from a very relevant background. Me and two of my co-founders, complementary skill sets.
Tell us about your co-founder from Aurangabad. There was a viral post.
Yeah.
2.5 million views.
Yes.
11,000 plus likes, and it's still growing.
Yeah, it's still growing.
So LinkedIn is shaking.
Yeah, that very blew out of proportion.
What happened? What was the post about?
No, what happened was on one of our Google chat channels, one of our front-end developers ended up clicking a photograph. We are launching a very interesting feature next week. And Vihang, my co-founder and the CTO, he is originally from Aurangabad. He worked over here in the Valley for about 5-6 years, was one of the top talents over here, and then decided to go back because he was passionate about his hometown, right? Every time in the US, when he used to say, "Where are you from?" and he used to say Aurangabad, it did not strike a chord, right? And that really stuck with him. So he went back over there, and this front-end developer who was working with him in the night, he ended up sharing a photograph that Vihang is programming in the middle of the night with a candlelight, And I just ended up posting that because that was quite inspiring, right? And I talked about his story, right? That he was one of the hottest talents over here in the Valley, could have led a very comfortable life with a very fancy package. His wife is still over here, right? So imagine doing a long distance marriage for your startup and for your passion towards your hometown where you were born and raised.
Amazing couple.
Yeah, and very supportive couple.
Of each other.
Yeah, very supportive of each other. Yeah. And the story was actually very interesting about that, how his motivation of building BHyve is, of course, unified intelligence, but also through this, can he make a global impression about a country like Aurangabad exists, and can he put Aurangabad on the world map, right? Like, the stories like Skype came out from a small town in Estonia, right? And now everybody knows about Skype is Estonian. Right, so even this is what he's passionate about, and so I thought of writing a post about the kind of sacrifices he's done. It's not the best situation.
I have done long distance relationship. It's not easy at all. It just after some time you long for family and
and they got married in December last year. So they got married in December last year, and then within 2 weeks he's like, okay, I have to get back to my startup. So
very inspiring story. So you have people with fire in the belly.
It's the best team I could ever wish for, right? Even my other co-founder Ketki, she's responsible for customer success. The amount of effort she puts in making sure the customer understands what we do and appreciates what we do, it's credible. It's no surprise that we have 100% renewal rate, right? And it's because of her efforts about making sure that the customers actually feel a part of BHyve team. So
awesome. So looks like you have a lot of early adopters who are willing to make your product better. You're roping them into the BHyve family.
Correct.
That's amazing. And is this like a new paradigm you learned in Russia, which you're trying to create like a growing platform for, or is this something you've seen for a long time and you felt it was not there? So what is the thesis behind your startups?
I think I as a kid was always fascinated that I always looked at other people as a source of knowledge, right? And I just did not know that how to approach this person, what can I learn from this person, what kind of knowledge he can or she can share with me, right? Amazing. There was no real medium for it, and I realized that this is not only me, but this is human nature. It just needs a platform or a technology to get facilitated towards. And if it can have an economic impact on the organization, then it makes a lot of sense. In Russia, it was very important because I was writing a lot of thesis and a lot of research about employee productivity. My organizational psychology at the end of the day talks about productivity, right? How can we increase engagement and productivity at the workplace? And we realized that, during the pandemic, that took a big hit when people suddenly were forced to go remote. The opportunity for somebody to learn from each other just went to zero, right?
Yeah, and nothing like face-to-face interaction, even to this day. But if something has to come close to it, like you said, it has to have incentive.
Yeah.
It has to be gamified. Yeah.
And incentives need not always be about Amazon vouchers, right? It also, a lot of people thrive on public recognition. When, the help what they offered is publicly acknowledged, right?
Yeah.
It really kind of incentivizes them to do more, right? So that's what also BHyve likes to capture, right? That you document a knowledge piece on BHyve, and if it is found helpful by other people, you are encouraged to start documenting more, right? It's the simple rule of social media. If you post something on social media and if it's appreciated by a lot of people, then your tendency to keep on doing it more often increases.
Yeah, awesome. So, so much about BHyve. But one question I'm very excited to to ask, and for other people to know, what is Omkar like when he's not at work, or is he always at work?
Honestly, I just had a kind of a very hard conversation with my wife, and actually my fiance. We are getting technically married in 1 month. Right, so 8th October is where my wedding is.
I got married 8th October.
that is such a great coincidence, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so 8th October is where I'm getting married.
It's supposed to be a good time. Indian horoscopes.
Yes, exactly. And my wife is Russian, actually.
Oh, okay.
So she was just complaining that, Omkar, that hey, you know what, you have to come back for the wedding. This is important. And the funny thing is, she actually didn't laughed at it, but told me that I'm becoming a psycho, because I told her that let's use our wedding as an opportunity to talk more about BHyve, right? So I decided the theme should be yellow and black, and we should have a small little iPads on every table talking about BHyve. And she's like, Omkar, stop this. This is just way too much. So you're crossing the line.
Now I know Omkar outside of work is all about work.
Yeah, no, I do enjoy playing the guitar. That's one of my.
And you travel a lot. I like that.
Yeah, I love traveling.
You travel a lot. You've been like that ever since I know you from Mumbai.
Yeah.
And breathtaking backdrops, amazing life experience. You're playing piano on a river someday. I don't know, somewhere you're playing a piano in the open.
This was in Lithuania.
Oh, yeah. And where was that?
Oh, that's actually a very interesting district in Lithuania. It's called Uzupish.
Okay.
Uzupish is a free district in Vilnius, which is the capital of Lithuania. Normally, people don't really pay for anything over there. It's the economy of the free. Very interestingly, Dalai Lama's favorite place is also Uzupish in Lithuania.
Oh my God. My favorite client is from Lithuania.
Yeah.
And you're right. They're
very
so
free-willed, and they're free-willed people. They're willing to do it.
Yes,
again,
absolutely.
A lot of ambition, right?
Yeah.
If we're talking about Estonians, Lithuanians, Latvians, fueled with ambition, right?
So this lady wanted to create a workplace which is fueled by creativity, and you match personalities based on your creativity types, very similar to what you're doing.
Yeah.
So that you design workplaces based on personalities.
Interesting.
And we should talk about it. I think you'll have a lot to
absolutely.
discuss about engagement.
I think creative personalities and matching them to other colleagues, I think.
We do it again using knowledge. So knowledge is the currency there.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Again, they gamified it just like you did, this whole thing. But I try to push the idea of founder dating at incubators and accelerators.
Yeah.
They say it's a hit or miss, but I keep my faith.
Yeah.
Because all the co-founders I worked with, they complemented my personality. So there is some truth in that.
No, I think founder dating is I think 100x VC, one of our investors, also does that. Yeah.
She does that. Wow. That's amazing. It's like you have structured thinkers and creative people. When you put them together, something happens.
I was just reading co-founders who actually meet through a formal setup. Of course, we three co-founders, we have been friends, right? Childhood friends. But co-founders who also meet through a structured setup, they meet with an agenda, right? And I think that's very important. And they meet with their kind of skill sets, what they have. So it's easy to complement each other.
Yeah. So of late, I've been meeting my business partners in formal settings, and they stuck through. So I would like to, subscribe to that thesis.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So much more to happen at BHyve based on just this one conversation. And it was exciting knowing about you outside of work.
Thank you so much. There is little things outside the work, but I'm glad that we could have this conversation. And thank you for giving me an opportunity to share all the hard work the team at BHyve is doing about building this whole concept of unified intelligence.
Absolutely. So look forward to more updates from you. Thank you very much, Omkar, and happy to
thank you
have you
so
back
much.
again. And please come back soon.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.